Happy morning, everyone. I hope you're doing well. It's Thursday. It is, and I'm here to let you know in case you didn't. Good morning. I feel listless and I just don't know what to do with myself. I think I'm stressed. Not a hundo, but I think so. My nerves are like bad. Thank you, Mishy. That was my you'll get in the mood if you feel pretty. It didn't work, but we try our best, right? I'm anxious because I have 30 hours of respiratory therapy lectures to complete by the end of the month, and I don't want to do it. And it's really boring. And if I don't do it, I lose my 9-year effort license to practice medicine. I'm just shaking. Barilla, thanks so much for those biddies, you generous fuck. I appreciate you. I have been doing it. Slowly but surely. It's just actually impossible to complete 30 hours of respiratory therapy lectures in one day. Even if I had the whole day, it's impossible. So it's just a little bit at a time. And until it's done, I'm like this. Just a mess. You can't, it's that I could show you one of these. They are terrible. These like lectures I have to listen to. There's no pausing, there's no fast forwarding, there's no nothing. You just listen and then you have to take a test. And that's it. And it is mind numbing, but it makes my heart go funny and I hate it. I'll get there. It's just like in the meantime, I kind of feel like vomiting like all the time. It reminds me of taking my test to get my license. Oh, thank you for the... And Mel, thank you for resetting the class, keeping the class alive, and giving it any swings while I was opening, you sneaky fuck. I appreciate you. I can totally stream the lectures. I just don't want to. It would... I mean... no one will enjoy it. I don't enjoy it, and it's my career. Like, I guess it's my second plan, whatever. You cannot speed up the lectures. The player is stuck. It's the worst. I mean, yes and no, Mel. It's interesting. Like, the information is interesting. It's the presentation. It's like listening to the Peanuts teachers. Womp 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 womp. I genuinely want to die. It's so dry and so fucking I genuinely, when I'm listening to them, I sit here and I watercolor. This is what I do while I listen to them because I physically can't just listen. Like, it's so fucking boring. And unfortunately, like, the way it usually works is when you do all these tests, there's a theme to the year. So the theme this year is subcutaneous/transcutaneous CO2 monitoring. And so every video is like the same fucking topic of just womp 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 womp, but slower than that. It's slower. It's mind-numbing shit. I hate it so much, but it just makes me so fucking like I'm like bottomed out emotionally. I can't. It's like I know a lot of us have this thing where like if you have an appointment during the day, you physically can't function before that appointment. That's this stuff. Like, my body feels like I can't enjoy a video game. Like, I can't literally just enjoy fucking anything. I hate it. It's the worst. No, it's never fun. It is never fun. Not to mention, and that's a good, like, if you guys don't, if you are unfamiliar with this medical shit, it's such bullshit. So essentially, we have a medical license, and depending on what kind of board certified medical license you have, every certain amount of years, you have to complete some continuing education credits and submit them to an organization, and then pay that organization $300 to $600 to keep your license. And we have to do this our entire lives. And if you don't do it, there's no second. You have to go back and take your board certified tests. You have to go back and take the official test to get board certified again, which are fucking horrific. It's just, but everybody has to do it. It's just part of the shit. It's the shit. We have mandatory trainings. They're the worst. My only goal is to not fall asleep. Genuine. That's why I sit here and I paint and stuff, because it's so fucking boring. And I've talked about this before. I'm a terrible test taker. Like, I second guess myself across the board. I never, like, I don't know what this is, if some people just know or if some people have rote memorization, but like, when someone's talking at me, I can't figure out what you want me to remember. Like, I genuinely, like, listening, I'm like, what is the important stuff here? And some of the questions they ask, like, and again, I'm just bitching. I'm going to be bitching about this till the end of the month because it's really stressful and it's just on my fucking mind. What drives me the most crazy about it is that the tests aren't to prove your knowledge of transcutaneous CO2 monitoring. They are to prove you listened to this fucking hour. So it's like they'll ask case-specific questions that aren't proving I know anything. It's just like, in case study number 2 with Mrs. Jones, what oxygen liters was she on? Like, it's testing rote memorization, not knowledge of respiratory therapy or medicine in any way, shape, or form. And I get really fucking bitter while doing these tests because I'm like, this isn't anything. This is literally you just taking money from me. You're not teaching me shit. I mean, you have to, like, you can't just take the test. You have, like, the way that, I'll show you one. I've had them up on my computer for weeks now. I'll show you one. Let's see. Refresh. They're terrible. You won't be excited. All right. So this is what they look like. So first thing, we are not, like, there is no organization out there that gives us this information. So this continuing education credit shit, we have to go search all of this online and find it ourselves and then submit it. It's kind of like doing taxes in the US. Like, we're never 100% sure if we're doing it right, but we're hoping to God we are, because what a fucking waste of time if we're not. So you have to search all the fuck over the internet. For respiratory therapy, I have to search very specifically credits for CRCE, meaning respiratory therapy continuing education credits. So that's another caveat on it. Like, I can't take nursing continuing education. I can't take doctor continuing education. And likewise, they can't take mine. A lot of the time, respiratory and anesthesia cross over, but that's about it. We don't cross over. So I have to go to Google, look for respiratory therapy CEUs 2025, and just scroll and scroll and scroll and scroll. And what happens is you end up finding them for money. Like, you have to pay to take these tests, and then you have to pay to maintain your license on top of it. And you end up finding them on ventilator vendor websites. So not only are these vent companies fucking rolling in money because we buy vents from them, now they're rolling in money because I have to pay them to continue my education in order to maintain my license. That was a lot, and I know. This is why I just don't, like, I don't want to put anyone through any of this, because it's my living hell. It's just hell. So this is what it looks like. Dragger Academy. Dragers are a type of vent. So this is my lesson. So essentially, you have to listen to this lecture, and then you have to take a test. You cannot take the test first. And if you don't listen to the lecture, like, I don't fucking know if you'll be able to pass the test. But this is what they sound like.
This was one that happened to me. I got a phone call. There was a 58-year-old female in the ER. And they're like, Aaron, get down here. Pulse ox is 78 to 80%. I think we're going to have to put her on a BiPAP or intubator. Get down here now. And I'm like, cool. So I went running down to the ER. And when I walk into the patient's room, I see the patient. She's sitting there watching TV. Legs are kind of up on the little stool. No respiratory distress whatsoever. She is on a 2-liter cannula. I asked her, I'm like, hey, do you use that at home?
And I was like, cool.
I use it all the time. I'm like, okay. So you're no 2 dependent patient. I look, Respiratory rate was about 20, 22. Heart rate was about 100, 105. Her color was normal. Her work of breathing was normal. I
It
asked
just
her if she
goes
was
on like
short of breath.
this.
She said, nope. And I mean, this whole time I'm also
Bless his
looking up
heart.
at the monitor, and I'm seeing the pulse oximeter.
Not
It's
everyone
saying
can tell a
80%.
story,
There's a
but
good
like,
breath. It's there. I went ahead just to play with it, wanted to put it on a different finger, put it on a different hand. Each time, good pleth, reading SpO2 of 80. And I'm like, that's odd. Put it on myself. It was popped up into the 90s. So I'm like, okay, the pulse ox seems.
this is what bothers me is he just goes on and on and on, and this is the only information you need. So what I end up doing, and this is where it gets really crazy, is I end up screenshotting things, modules I'm taking, whether or not I pass the test, where the module is, etc., and pasting them in Paint. And I end up screenshotting every fucking slide in every single video just so I can pass the test, because I guarantee he's going to say, in case number 1, what was her SpO2? What is that doing for me in continuing education? You fucking tell me. Memorizing some dude telling a story?
Working, but that pulse ox doesn't necessarily fit what I'm seeing. So I went to my doc and I went and had a conversation. I'm like, hey, what's going on with bed 22? Doc's like, man, I guess I don't know. I think we're gonna have to put her on BiPAP, intubator. What do you think? Luckily, I knew this doc really well, and I was like, I don't know. Have you seen the patient?
Do you see what I'm saying? He's probably great at what he does. You can't be an instructor and do lectures like this if you're not a good RT. It's just like mind-numbingly slow. This is 40 minutes. This could have been 15.
And the doc was like, are you telling me to assess my patient before I call you? And he was smiling. Once again, we knew each other, and I'm like, yes, sir, I am. He's like, well, Aaron, he goes, you need to see the
And
blood
this
gas.
is what I do
like,
in
okay.
all my spare time.
So I was like, what does the blood gas look like? And he showed it to me. It's 735, 43, 48, 25, and sat at 83. And I'm like, whoa, okay. Thing that sticks out to me,
Bueller.
probably stuck out to everybody else. PO2 of
Bueller.
48. And sats on the gas.
Bueller. Yeah, so that's what he's talking about. So essentially, we have those little monitors on your finger, or like we'll put one on your neck or your earlobe, and that's what's monitoring your oxygen, like how much the peripherals are getting oxygen to the capillaries and whatnot. And essentially what he's saying is his patient had a sat of 80% on their finger, but was sitting up normal watching TV. A sat of 80 is not good. If you sat below 94, we send you home with oxygen. 100% obviously, like, that's the best. But like if you sat under 94, we send you don't get to leave the hospital without oxygen and a tube or something. Like, it's horrible. So that's what he's talking about. So basically what he did is he went and did a blood gas to confirm that this SpO2 was real. So the blood gas is taking arterial blood from your wrist, and then we run it through an ABG machine, and the ABG machine tells us what your actual SpO2 is. And so what he's found is he's confirmed that, yeah, that reading is correct. She's only satting 83%, which is wild. This is the ABG. So this is the blood test versus the actual monitor. So this is confirming that the monitor is right, which is scary. It just takes so long to get through all that fucking information. 94, it's 90. Anything below 98, and we're going to be watching you like a hawk. It's very serious. Like, people fuck around with oxygen sats a little too loosely, in my opinion. And granted, I am a respiratory therapist, so I take this shit really seriously. But under 94, and I'm sending you to a PFT lab to get a PFT because you've got a restrictive or you've got an obstructive disease going on. That's crazy. No one with decent lungs should be satting below 98 at rest, like laying in bed. She could be a weird anomaly. I don't know. We're going to hear the story.
We're about 83, about 81, 83.
And if you care about any of these other numbers, so pH is 7.35. A normal pH is 7.35 to 7.45. PaCO2, 43. A normal CO2 is 35 to 45. PaO2, 48. I'm going to let you guess what the normals of that is. And then HCO3, that's bicarb. So I know I've talked about this before. I can't believe we're doing this. I know I've talked about this before, but bicarb is one of those things we look at to see if something is chronically wrong with you. And what bicarb tells me, essentially, like, if your bicarb is normal, it means whatever else is going on is an acute situation. If your bicarb is outside of normal, that means whatever's going on is a chronic situation that you live with. So bicarb is a really important number.
Great. I'm like, okay, still doesn't make sense. If this patient was truly this hypoxemic, why is she not showing signs of being hypoxic? Her respiratory rate should be up. Her work of breathing should be up. She should be confused. None of those signs are there. Plus, her CO2 should have been lower because she should be hyperventilating, trying to get the PaO2 up. Like, it doesn't make sense. I was like, are we sure that maybe some venous blood? But I was like, even if it was venous, I would expect my CO2 to go up. And he was like, Aaron, he goes, I was in there. It was a good draw, felt good. He's like, it was a good draw. I'm like, still doesn't make sense. So I'm like, all right, let's go back to the basics.
Fuck, he talks slow. Yeah, that is super normal. So post-surgery, especially if you've been if you've been put under, you're going to breathe really, really shallow when you come out, and you're going to breathe really, really terribly. So part of, like, post-op or surgery recovery is we usually give you a type of device that gets you to start deep breathing. It's similar when we sleep, we sat low. Like, that's very normal because we're at rest. We are breathing very, very shallowly, and you will shallower. We're breathing very shallower. We're breathing very shallow, and so your oxygen will naturally be lower. But sometimes I just breathe slowly. Breathing slowly is fine. There's lots of people out there who have a respiratory rate of like 12, 8. It is wild. They have huge lungs. You will still perfuse well. So oxygen saturation has nothing to do with rate of breathing or depth of breathing. Oxygen saturation is how much oxygen is being taken on via every breath and delivered to the extremities, to the further parts of the body. That's why we put the fucking monitor on your finger, because we want to know how well is your heart going? How far are we pumping this oxygen? So that's the difference. Does that make sense? The rate and depth of your breath has more to do with your CO2, believe it or not. So the rate you breathe, like how fast you breathe, or the depth with which you breathe, tends to have a lot more to do with you holding CO2 as opposed to needing additional oxygen. Wow, I'm so sorry this is happening. Does that make sense? So people like, for instance, I've explained, this is a really good example. I've explained to you guys what it's like to breathe with emphysema or COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. Take the deepest breath possible. Hold it. Now breathe on top of it. That's what it's like to live with COPD. That is because COPDers are CO2 retainers. Their blood cells want to hold as much CO2 as possible as opposed to bumping it off and taking oxygens on. And with a chronic emphysemic or someone with COPD, it's the same thing. We would see a bicarb of like 27. Again, that's the HCO3. We would see a bicarb of like 27 or 28. Because it's a chronic issue. This is someone who has been smoking for long enough to develop COPD, or they have something, the genetic component, maybe they're overweight, something like that is happening. So yeah, there's some education for you. Rate of breath, depth of breath, your body is actually regulating CO2 more so than taking on oxygen. So like when you go to work out and you start to breathe really heavy, it's because your body's trying to get rid of all that CO2. You're starting to put off a lot of CO2 and your body's trying to put it off. Does that make sense? I know, mission. And this is what continuing education should look like. Because like he hasn't explained any of that.
Hypoxic or hypoxemic.
We'll see. Maybe he'll get to the bottom of the story.
Hypoxia. So I was like,
but the killer is, I bet I'll still fail the test.
And he goes, well, yeah, why? I'm like, can I see it? He goes, yeah. And then
I've been offered teaching positions. It's not worth the money. In my opinion, like, I get offered jobs all the time for respiratory stuff. Like, for instance, if I went into doing instructional videos like this, I'd probably make an additional, I'd be working 40 hours a week, but maybe make an additional like 20 grand a year. If I went into respiratory sales, I was just offered a job recently for respiratory sales. I would be making $130,000 a year with a $100,000 bonus sign on. But I can't sell my soul like that, so I just can't do it. But that's the difference. It's fucking crazy. Sales, my dad worked sales, my biological dad. Like, it is crazy the amount of money you make selling ventilators versus teaching people how to save lives. It's disgusting.
He was shown to me in the hemoglobin was 18. And I'm like,
Cheers.
good, we're done.
Morning
He goes,
clutch.
no, Aaron, PaO2 is still 48. Patient sat in the high 70s, low 80s. We're not done here. And I'm like, yes, sir. She has a lot of buses. She is just fine from an oxygenation standpoint. And he's like, I don't understand. And I was like, PaO2 is the oxygen that's in the plasma. Saturation is now telling us what is on that hemoglobin. She has a lot of buses. They don't need to be 90% filled because she has more buses carrying oxygen to the tissue. And it's obviously getting to the tissue because she isn't showing signs of being hypoxic. So this patient is fine. And he goes, Aaron, that doesn't make any sense. And he goes, I don't know what you're talking about. So once again, not thinking craziness. I'm thinking about, remember the basics.
Thank you, Sleaze.
O2 content. Hemoglobin times 1.34 times saturation, PaO2 times 0.003. Did it all up, wrote it all out.
I bet that's going to be on the test. And this is what I do. Then I go and I screenshot it. And I pull open Paint and I go, oops. And then I flop that over here for later. Because I'm a terrible test taker and I second guess myself. But I bet that'll be on the test. Some sort of equation
Hemoglobin
bullshit.
is 20.16. Normal is 16 to 22.
No,
she has a normal amount of.
They're all boring, and I'm sure they know it. Like, there's no fucking way they don't. This information is not fun. Like, it's... I feel like... I don't know. This is why, genuinely, why I feel bad even showing you guys this or doing this on stream, because it's so fucking boring. And so I end up pausing it and trying to explain things to make it more exciting. What up, Mite? I'm showing everyone the horror that is CRCs.
But you cannot say she is hypoxemic. She's got a normal amount of oxygen.
Doc didn't believe me. Wow, what? So we went and calculated his zone, okay.
And he's like, I still don't understand. I'm like, fine, let's do me. So I went ahead and calculated mine off of some assumed values. I didn't go blood stick myself. And so I used PaO2 of 90, sat at 97, hemoglobin of 16. Lo and behold, my O2 content was 21.07. Pretty dang close to this patient that he was getting ready to admit for hypoxemia. Remember your basics. This isn't anything creative thinking. This is just looking at the data from all surrounding facts and coming to a conclusion. Now, unfortunately, this particular patient ended up getting admitted for hypoxemia because that's what they had. They had a PaO2 of 48. The ER doc was like,
just because he's not explaining it here, because it's kind of basic knowledge, I guess. So the numbers he has down here, PaO2, SaO2, hemoglobin. So how do I explain this? Your PaO2 is how much oxygen is actually making it to the tissues. Your SaO2 is how much oxygen is actually on each red blood cell. So we all understand how we're like oxygen kicks off the red blood cell, adopts a CO2, etc., like that trade. We know how that's happening. So essentially that's what he's calculating down here. That's it. He's just trying to calculate it for the doctor so the doctor can explain it better. Yeah, that's it. I'm sorry. This is so boring. This is the worst shit.
PaO2 of 40,
and we're only halfway through this.
Do it. Admitted her 2 days.
And the killer is it'll be a 5-question quiz. I'm not kidding you. I've already done like 12 of these, and one of them, 3 of them I did from the same website. The review for the professor was longer than the quiz. Crazy. Like, the review for the person speaking was longer than the actual quiz.
Days later, she ended up going home because the hospital is going to find any.
Yeah, Knives. Everybody seemed curious to see what they looked like, so here we are.
Situation. Conformism. The doctor was conforming to.
So essentially what this video is actually teaching is how to critical think through a problem and how not just to rely on, oh, I already know this, or like, what's that saying? There's something like, if every problem looks like a nail, every solution's a hammer. What's that saying? Something along those lines. Review, this was so boring I got dumber. No shit. No shit. But like, how do you get good people? It's, again, we've come full circle. Like, how do you get teachers to teach if you're not willing to pay them? I don't know. There you go. When you're holding a hammer, everything looks like a nail. That's the thing. Thank you, Crispy. So that's basically what this video is teaching, is like, no matter how elevated your intelligence is, like how much experience you have in critical care, you always need to get with other people, talk about a situation, and break it down and look at what's actually happening, not what you think is happening, not what you want to happen, and not what's the easy solution. A lot of the time it is, I mean, the vast majority of the time it's the easiest solution. But that's basically what this video is teaching, is like, that patient got admitted because the doctor wouldn't listen to the respiratory therapist because the doctor only looked at some numbers and not the patient. And I've talked about that so many fucking times with you guys. Like, the sheer amount of times that I have, like, yelled about that we are taught this in school so hard now because this is such a huge issue with older medical professionals because it wasn't taught in school. Once we started getting all this technology and all of these monitors and all of these machines that will read everything, people got really fucking lazy. Like, really fucking lazy. We have so many monitors in ICUs that at this point, I barely need to touch a patient because everything's given to me. That being said, we are absolutely taught that you still get your hands on the patient. You do not record the heart rate that is on that monitor. You take your patient's heart rate. You take your patient's respiratory rate. You listen to their breath sounds. You do everything because a human, like, that's just, how do you put that? It's an average of the information. Like, the computer is a constant recording of everything going on. Like, that's what the monitor's doing. I'm recording everything every 4 hours, so we're getting a good average of what a human's taking versus what the monitor's taking, and we're getting a better accumulation of information that way, if that makes sense. I'm sorry, I don't know what happened. This is why I'm so anxious and stressed. This is what this does to my brain all the time. I have to do 30. I'm right there with you. I've already done, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I've done 10. It's a lot. Focusing on what is instead of just like pulling shit out of your ass. He talks about that, like, in the beginning of this video. He talks about, like, there's always that person in the ICU or whatever who seems to know everything. Like, they have the answer, they've got the solution. That's a great resource to have, but still do your due diligence. Still go in and look at your patient. And this doctor did not go look at the fucking patient. The doctor sat in an office, looked at numbers on a screen, and said, nah, they're hypoxic. Admit them. Meanwhile, this patient is sitting up in bed, eating a snack, watching TV, and totally normal. So that's a lesson in this, in that, like, you need to fucking look at that seems common sense, but you'd be crazy. Like, it's crazy how much that ends up not. Because I've told you, what was one situation? So we have many different monitors for, to monitor your oxygen, your CO2, etc. We have the finger one. We have one that clips onto your ear. We have one we can put on your throat that monitors your oxygen, but it also monitors your breaths. It, like, listens to the breaths going through your throat, monitors your respiratory rate, all of these things. And I had a patient one time who, I can't even remember what was wrong with them. Doesn't matter. I walked past the room and their monitor looked fine, and I looked down, and their finger SA2 monitor, oxygen monitor, was literally just swaying in a fan off the bed. It wasn't even connected to the patient at all. It was genuinely dangling off the side of the bed, and there was a fan blowing on it, just enough to give it this perfect heart rate, perfect beat. It was crazy. So we ended up putting it back on the patient. The patient was desperately in need of oxygen. Like, it was an emergency situation, it ended up being. But things like that can happen, which is why we have Q2, Q4 checks. Like, it doesn't matter how serious your patient is at that moment. You will go check your patient every 2 hours. You will go check your patient. You have to have your hands on the fucking human being, because computers are not the be-all, end-all. Oh, yeah, shit. Oh, God. Super scary. The worst. I mean, the worst that I can consciously remember. So what happens with ventilators is if you cough, if you're on a ventilator, you cough, you breathe funny, you sigh, snot, whatever, the ventilator's going to alarm at me. No matter what, boop, 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 it's going to go off, and I have to go check that ventilator, turn that alarm off, and make sure you're okay every single time. So that can get a little annoying, right? And I've got upwards of hundreds of patients. So sometimes nurses will go in, mute that alarm, and then come get me and be like, hey, patient 5, not an emergency, but they're coughing. And I'll be like, all right, as soon as I'm done here, I'm going over to patient 5 immediately. I watched this one. So the way my unit was a really long rectangle, kind of like a figure 8, like a square figure 8, and the med room was in the middle. So I'm at one end and she's at the other end, and I hear that alarm go off, and I'm literally scrubbing in to go into a different patient's room. And I watch this nurse walk in, mute the alarm because the alarm turned off, and then walk out. And I just keep going because I'm like, all right, I trust her. I know this nurse. Like, there must be nothing wrong, right? Like, I'm making eye contact. You say something, and then it goes off again, and I see her walk in again and mute it, and I'm like, this is fucking weird. So I stop scrubbing, and I, like, take all my shit off, and I go down to that patient's room because I'm like, there's too many alarms. I don't know what the fuck. She's not looking at me or making any communication. I walk in, and I'm not fucking you. The tube to the ventilator had disconnected from the ET tube and was dangling in the fucking wind. And the patient was just breathing. I mean, the patient was fine. Thank fucking Christ. But the fucking nurse did not look at the goddamn patient. They just mute, walk. That's one of the worst situations. I mean, obviously there was a report gone down, and we all had to go to court, and it was terrible. That's shit. You just gotta look at your fucking patient. You're never perfect. You cannot be overtly confident. Ever. Like, even surgeons, even though they have that God complex, they are always second-guessing themselves, literally 24/7 constantly. You have to. It's alarm fatigue. It absolutely is. But that's no excuse for leaving someone off a fucking breathing machine. Because it's not, I mean, the patient was breathing. That's the like, we ended up extubating the patient because the patient was fine. Like, they just had the ET tube and they were breathing through their ET tube and just fine. They genuinely didn't need the ventilator. What's dangerous and why we all had to report and go to court and whatnot is that is a straight line into your lungs, and nothing is able to close off your lungs. So as long as you have an ET tube in, it's holding your epiglottis down, straight down into your lungs. It's creating an airtight seal, and that's just free flow of air going in and out, which means free flow of sputum, vomit, etc., bacteria. So we never, I mean, the amount of times we break the line is as few as fucking humanly possible while you're in the hospital, because that's a humid environment where bacteria will thrive. We have humidification going through ventilators and shit. Like, you can literally see water droplets in the tubes. Like, it's the worst. That's one of the worst situations and it sucks that personal experience taught me, you look at your goddamn patient, but that was my first year being an RT. All of that shit happened, which is, well, the patient with the swinging. Yeah, no, that was the same hospital. Yeah. Crazy. Because people are fucking filthy, and hospitals are fucking filthy. As much as we clean them, there's no way to make a hospital spotless. We do our best, but there are literally just germs and people walking in and out of them all the time. It's crazy shit. I have a friend who's on life support. It's scary, but he's only in his 40s. Lots of people end up on life support. I hope it works for him.
Situation that if a patient has this singular value, I have to do this. Didn't have that full information. So when I got the call from the ER nurse and she's flipping out, didn't have all the data, i.e. the hemoglobin 18. And then the doc was afraid of being wrong.
I bet this is on the test.
That prevented the critical thinking situation from arising, even though the data showed this patient is just fine.
Like, what are the barriers to critical thinking?
Move to case 2. 65-year-old male admitted for dyspnea and COPD. Patient shows that the respiratory rates of 22 to 26 through the day. This was a real case. I was brought in after the fact to review it because somebody ended up getting written up for their actions in it, so they asked me to come take a look at it. But this was how the patient presented. 65-year-old COPD, admitted for dyspnea, but now they got respiratory rates of 22 to 26 through the day.
What was wrong with case number 1? She got admitted and shouldn't have been admitted because the doctor couldn't move outside of their comfort zone of, well, the machine said this, which I understand. It sucks. Like, this guy's making a good point, but another problem, one of the problem 698 of this continuing education, a lot of it is the continuing education is teaching us how to take care of people. It's how to take care of human beings, how to be nurses, how to be respiratory therapists. Unfortunately, we are 50-50. We are 50 respiratory therapists, 50% business. And so the way that, and I guarantee this is what happened, I'd put money on it, the way that doctor viewed that situation is, sure, probably nothing's going wrong, but if anything is going wrong, I lose my medical license, you lose your medical license, and this whole hospital gets sued if we send her home. It's all fucking getting sued. You guys know I've talked about it, but I have to maintain over $1 million of liability on my head at any given time just because of the license for medicine I carry. And that's to cover my ass just in case. Because the sue happy world we live in and the insurance fucked world we live in, that's where that comes from. So he's teaching us, like, this is what we should have done in a perfect world where insurance companies actually work and hospitals actually function correctly, and doctors aren't afraid of getting sued every millisecond of their life. Because there's literally lawyers waiting outside ERs, EDs, just waiting. Oh, did you have an unpleasant experience? Allow us to sue. Because they'll just get a payout. Like, nothing ever goes to court because of that liability. It's horrible. Do you want to hear this? Listen.
Been pretty stable, and then all of a sudden things weren't stable anymore. RT was called into a room to assess because the SpO2 is 83%. Patient now presents with a respiratory rate of 35 breaths per minute, heart rate of 120, accessory muscle use, prolonged expiration. All I mean, we've all seen this patient. They're on a 28% Venturi mask, so the therapist goes over there, turns up the O2 flow rate on the mask, and now the patient's SpO2 is 91%. And they're like, okay, I fixed the immediate problem, which was hypoxemia. Unfortunately, while continuing to watch the patient, the work of breathing, the high respiratory rate, the tachycardia, the prolonged expiration didn't go away. So we all know, okay, breathing treatment, steroids, or BiPAP is what we need to do. And because the dyspnea continued, the floor therapy.
No shit, Knives. That's what I was showing everyone earlier. So while I do this stuff alone, because I genuinely cannot concentrate on it, it's womp 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 womp. That's all I hear. Like, it's just so slow and so boring, and you can't skip it, and you can't do anything about it, and it drives me fucking nuts. I sit here and I watercolor. Because I don't know what else to do. Like, normally if I'm doing something boring that I have to do, I'll listen to stuff in the background that will keep me entertained. But unfortunately, when I have to listen to something boring, I'm like, fuck, now what do I do? Like, how do I keep my attention here? It's so hard for me, so I end up, like, painting and shit. Exactly. Dry eyes, try clear eyes. Oh, Knives, you get it then. It's the most boring shit. And that's essentially what he's going over. So he's going to go over case studies where it's like, here's the obvious answer, and here's really what happened, and this is why it went wrong, because people are very addicted to the obvious answer. I've been struggling with this going because I'm sleepy, dude. Same. If we can stop at any time. Should we make a safe word? Because this is terrible shit. I didn't plan to show, but people seemed interested. I don't know.
Requested the patient be moved to the unit, placed on a BiPAP, increase their steroid dose, move the breathing treatments to Q4 instead
It's
of
so
PRN.
bad.
Let's take care of this work of breathing and more than likely a bronchoconstriction situation. The physician denied the move request, physician denied the BiPAP request, physician denied the steroids. We did approve. Go ahead and give a.
The information is fun. It's the presentation, and it's no shade on this dude. Like, I don't fucking know who this dude is. It is no shade. It's just and then the like, dyspnea continued, and floor RT requested move to unit and place on BiPAP, increased steroid dose, and breathing treatment started on a Q4 schedule. Physician denied move request, denied BiPAP request, denied steroids, denied approved by. That's what it sounds like when you could be like, dyspnea continued. Does everyone know what dyspnea is? Crazy. Let's go through. I don't know. It could just, it's the presentation. I'm just so bored. I need inflection in voice or something. We don't know why the physician denied it yet. I don't know. We don't know.
A couple extra PRN breathing treatments, which the therapist did, went ahead and gave the treatments, continued to monitor the patient.
So I just have to say that part does bother me. This is just going to end up me telling a lot of shitty stories about working in hospitals and whatnot. But like, if I write an order requesting moving my patient up a notch to a more serious level, BiPAP and steroids, and my doctor says, meh, do a PRN albuterol, I'm going to go find my doctor. If you're a doctor, fear me, bitch. I'm coming to find you. Those are the only step up from BiPAP is intubation. The tube in your throat. Like, that's the only step up. The only difference, like the way we refer to them, non-invasive ventilation, invasive ventilation. That's it. They are controlling all your expiration, all your inspiration. That is a serious goddamn order. It probably means I did an ABG and I'm scared for my patient. I would never order a BiPAP without it. And the fact that a doctor was like, no, PRN albuterol, eat my dick. I'd go find that doctor. Fear me, for I will roar.
Breathing treatments, which
Cheers.
the therapist did, went ahead and gave the treatments, continued to monitor the patient. 2 hours after all of this initiated, the patient continued to have increased work of breathing, tachycardia, tachypnea, was now becoming lethargic, but the SpO2 remained at 91%.
So, 2 hours after having the flow rate increased on a venti mask, which means the flow of air at your face, not necessarily the oxygen, the patient continued with increased WOB, tachycardia, tachypnea, and became lethargic. SpO2 remained at 91%. They left that patient for 2 hours. All right, so sorry, but here we're gonna get, he might go over this, I don't fucking know, but a little bit more education for you guys. What did I just teach you guys about oxygen versus CO2? Literally, we just went over this. So what your body does to maintain its homeostatic, not right now, bud, homeostatic point of CO2 is respirate deeper and more frequently. That's how we get rid of CO2, right? The way we take on oxygen is we give you more oxygen. So if you look at it in terms of a ventilator, if I do an ABG on you and your CO2 is climbing, I'm going to raise your rate of breathing and maybe your volumes a little bit. Volumes meaning how much air I'm giving you, because that's going to help you get rid of, I might even extend your expiration time. I might not be giving you enough time to expire all that CO2. So there's lots of things, but it always has to do with volumes and rate. That's where CO2 is dealt with. Oxygen is giving you fucking a percentage of oxygen. So this patient came in with a shitty SpO2. The RT has already requested that this patient go up a floor, get a BiPAP, all of these things. And what did they do? What did the doctor request? A venti mask. So this is just stupid. I'm so sorry. I'd be hunting this doctor down. So we have an oxygen problem, and the doctor decided to tackle it with flow, respiration rate, and volume. That's what our doctor did. Dumb. That's not it. You give oxygen, you give a treatment, maybe you get a BiPAP. But this isn't how we deal with oxygen. So I'm already mad.
Patient ended up being transferred to the unit and intubated.
So, what has now happened? I'm so sorry. This case is making me mad. Maybe this is better doing it with you guys. So what's now happened is a case that could have been just a BiPAP and a quick turnaround of that person's homeostasis, because the doctor decided to leave the patient and inappropriately treat them. We have now skipped CPAP and BiPAP and high flow, and we are now intubated. Do you guys know what it costs to be in an ICU room a night without a nurse, a respiratory therapist, or a light on? $6,000. My vent is going to double that. This is why medicine is fucked. That is fucked. I mean, seriously, like this patient was probably conscious and being spoken to, like, hey, I think we're going to move you up and put you on a BiPAP. And suddenly, patient probably crashed, intubation. Like, we went from 0 to 60 when we could have mitigated right in the middle had we just walked into a goddamn patient's room and looked at the fucking patient. Do you know what I'm saying? This is a big reason why I don't work in hospitals right now, is I just it's so, I don't have any power to make the doctors change their fucking mind. I'm at their behest, and this shit right here happens all the time. Patient should have just gone on a CPAP. They should have gone on a CPAP right away. We could have blown that CO2 off, gotten them right back into a normal breathing pattern, and been fine. But because we decided to wait and fuck around, we found out, and now we've got another fucking intubation up in the ICU. All the time. I worked ICU. If that's not clear, that's where my home base was, and the sheer amount of time this shit would, I'd get a call from one of my coworkers like, hey, I have someone, I think I'm going to try to get this person to come up to your unit on a CPAP or something. They're not doing too well. 4 hours later, a crashing patient getting intubated on the cart while it's literally moving through my doors. That's the patient. And I'm like, what the fuck? And it just could have been, there's just so many steps we could have taken in between. But because we fucked around, like, this is just unintelligent. I'm so sorry. Anyways.
This is where the problem came up, is the floor therapist was written up for knocking out the hypoxic drive and causing the respiratory failure.
The floor therapist was written up for knocking out the hypoxic drive and causing the respiratory failure.
This is where I ended up getting called into the situation to figure out, hey, what is going on here?
Oh, I'm real curious
So
to see
when
where
you
this
look at it,
goes.
the patient was on a Venturi mask. So Venturi mask normally set up have an expiratory an expiratory flow rate of about 30 liters per minute. Normal expiratory flow rate for a normal person breathing is about 30 liters per minute. Well, as soon as that patient started taking bigger and deeper breaths and working harder to breathe,
if there was no order for this mask, that RT should be written up. I just want to say that right now. It's one of the main reasons doctors exist in ICUs is to write our orders and double check our knowledge. There's always a double check system. You need someone to confer with. Like one person is never the smartest. You can't take someone from a nasal cannula to a venti mask without a fucking order. Because again, this is high flow. Like you can literally, like, say, you know, I was talking about people with COPD, people with emphysema. They naturally hold more CO2. That's their happy place. If you, and this is why I say never, ever, ever lie when you come into the hospital. If you come into the hospital and I ask, do you have COPD or emphysema? And you say no, and then I do an ABG and I see that your CO2 is like 50, I'm going to blow all that CO2 off and put you in a coma. But if you say, yeah, I smoke, I have COPD, I probably have emphysema, whatever, and then I see that CO2 of 50 on your blood gas, I'm going to be like, okay, that's where you live. I'm not going to put you in a coma. I'm not going to blow all that CO2 off of you in some way. So we don't know what the fuck is happening here because we don't have a blood gas. And in my personal opinion, you should never use a venti mask or a BiPAP or a CPAP or a ventilator. You literally should never do a ventilator without a gas, but always get a blood gas first because you just never know what's going on. And again, blood gas, arterial blood. I'm already tired. But you do not fucking put something serious like this on someone where you're actually controlling their respiratory rate. Basically, what this is, it's a full mask with no openings on it. And what this nozzle, that green piece is right here, we can spin that and you can see the open, there's like an open vestibule. I don't know what the fuck. An open part. Depending on how open that is, that's how we're controlling how much oxygen you're getting, but also how much you are able to expirate. So we can cause you to hold more CO2 than you should, or we could blast you with oxygen and cause you to blow off all your CO2, even though you're a heavy CO2 holder, and we shouldn't have done that. So I just want to be clear, I don't just stand, I'm not one of those like, RTs are the best ever and fuck doctors in any way, shape, or form. If an RT did this without an order, that's on them. They should be written up. That's dangerous.
Flow rate went up, which means now they're entraining more room air into that mask, and that dropped the amount of oxygen that they were actually receiving. Now, the amount of oxygen coming out of the Venturi mask never changed, but the amount that they received went down because they were breathing deeper and faster. So what are some situations that therapists, they're saying, hey, when he increased the flow rate on that mask, it knocked out the hypoxic drive. You gave them too much oxygen. By you raising it up, you gave them more oxygen. The FiO2 coming out of the mask was unchanged. It was still 28%, which was what was prescribed by the physician. It was 28%. The only difference was it was 28% coming out faster. And knowledge, basic understanding of the Venturi mask would tell you that the FiO2 didn't go up, the total flow went up. What didn't change? SpO2. The patient had been around 90, 92.
So what he just said confirmed what I was assuming. So essentially what happened with this mask, because they left it wide open, they left the oxygen at 28, which was crazy and a really high amount, but because they left this vestibule open, it was a higher flow blasting at the person, but the oxygen coming up the tubing was escaping out that little hole. So flow, rate of breathing, volume of breathing, CO2. That's doing nothing for oxygenation. So no shit, this patient's SpO2 did not go up.
In this situation, after the therapist turned it up, was still in that 90 to 92 range. So even if you believe in the hypoxic drive theory, didn't knock anything out, because that would be 88 to 92. We're always trying to keep those COPD patients.
COPDers, 88 to 92.
Respiratory rate during the entire time from when the therapist first stepped into the room to when they intubated, the patient was breathing in the mid to upper 30s the entire time. So if you had knocked out the hypoxic drive, the respiratory rate should have dropped down. It did not.
So what happens, what he's saying is if you knock out the hypoxic drive, so if you hyperventilate, you knock off all that CO2 and you take on a shit ton of oxygen. And I love the way they put it in the movie Fight Club, even though it's not a good movie anymore, but like he talks about it at the beginning of the movie. He's like, oxygen is a drug. Look at the serene faces on these people, like Hindu cows. Genuinely that happens. So knocking out your hypoxic drive, kicking off all that CO2 and just giving you way too much fucking oxygen when maybe you are a CO2 holder, an emphysemic or something like that, which we do not want to do.
Not. The patient's work of breathing did not change. So how can you come to the conclusion of knocking out the hypoxic drive when the patient was still breathing like a freight train, working hard? The SpO2 is only 90 to 92, and no.
So what he's saying is there's no proof that the RT knocked out a hypoxic drive based on this information, because the FiO2 did not change, the SpO2 did not change, the respiratory did not change, and the work of breathing did not change. Those are things that would have changed by this mask. I'm assuming that's what he's saying.
More FiO2 was given than what they had been previously on. Doesn't fit knocking out of the hypoxic drive. The therapist was not at fault here. So what did happen, more than likely, is the patient tired out because they were working hard to breathe, and what they needed is something to reduce their work of breathing. Remembering what we talked about.
A BiPAP! Ah! I'm angry for this theoretical patient.
For the key problem is identifying what the problem is in the patient. And in this particular case, the problem was the increased work of breathing. So that excessive work of breathing wasn't being caused by the hypoxemia, because we fixed that when the flow rate was increased on the mask. SAT's 88 to 92 wasn't the hypoxemia. It was something else going on with that patient, and non-invasive is indicated for a patient with increased work of breathing.
Non-invasive is a BiPAP! I get it. This shit happened so much in the hospital. So fucking much in the hospital where you're just like, sorry. It's so real. This is such a real case study.
And COPD. So that was the problem, and that problem was never addressed. They focused on the oxygen because
That's what I was going to say. So about oxygen. So I'm sure you guys have heard me talk about a million different ways to deliver oxygen, and there's reasons for every single one of them, like a nasal cannula, a venti mask, a partial rebreather mask. We've got CPAP, we've got BiPAP, we've got nasal pillows, we've got full mask, we've got nasal mask, we've got intubation, we've got a trach. We've got so many different ways to help you breathe, right? So what he is essentially saying is that the problem was work of breathing, And either the RT or the doctor, I'm not 100% clear on where the venti mask came in or why, but the venti mask can't deliver more than 28% oxygen. Room air is 21%, but there's really nothing we can do without a closed circuit, i.e. a trach or an intubation or a BiPAP, where we can actually accurately control exactly how much oxygen you're getting and exactly how much CO2 is pulling off, which is why this person absolutely probably wanted to put him on a BiPAP right away. So what happens with the venti mask, as you can see, it's just sitting on a face like this, and no one's face is uniform, and it's probably got leaks all around the face. So air is probably blasting out the sides of this mask. It's blasting out that little hole in the bottom. So flow is just being jammed at this person, but any oxygen benefit from a nasal cannula to a venti mask isn't there. We go to a venti mask to try to deal with a flow issue, but that wasn't working because this person had gone too far. The only way to really get a higher O2 delivered to someone without BiPAP, CPAP, or intubation would be high flow nasal cannula, which is a nasal cannula, but it's like really thick. It kind of looks like a nasal mask for COPD, and it goes up your nose and kind of sits on it like that, and then it's got this coily tube that goes up, and it's like we do it a lot. We'll take people from ventilators to high flow cannulas a lot of the time because they're the only thing that can really kind of deliver more oxygen. But even then, if the flow is so fucking high, what happens is it goes in your nose and creates like a wind tunnel in the back of your throat and just ends up all coming out of your mouth.
Started the whole situation, the drop in SpO2. And so that's what all the caregivers were looking at, is that drop in SpO2. So this must be the problem. And then when bad things happen, it's like, oh, well, we gave them too much oxygen. That was never the issue and problem here. The issue and problem was that a high work of breathing, which was never addressed with the or with the non-invasive. So what were the barriers to critical thinking here?
I bet this is on the test.
Dogma, peer pressure. We all have those people that believe in the hypoxic drive, and it's got to be true, and you're going to knock it out. You can't give them too much oxygen, and they just press and press and press. So you start to conform to believe that this must be an issue and a problem, which then creates an unconscious bias, and you now start to have a closed-minded to what other.
I bet it's the highlights, y'all. I'm gonna screenshot that motherfucker again. Oh shit, that's not. Look at me wanting to play games and doing fucking the most horrifically boring shit with you guys ever. I'm so sorry. That being said, those sitting through it with me, thanks. This is my nightmare. It's my nightmare. Nightmares!
Possibilities might be at play here because of that conformism. There's also unwarranted assumptions being made that, oh, it had to be because of the oxygen, because you
I
turned
hope
that
so.
flow meter up.
What my experience is, and this is why I started screen sharing it, is they love to ask specifics about case studies, which is stupid in my opinion, because that's not proving I know shit about shit. That's not proving I'm continuing my education as a respiratory therapist in any way, shape, or form at all. What is that showing? That I memorized the leaders they put on case one? Like, go fuck yourself. I hate that shit. This is what should be on the test, in my opinion.
And you can never touch the flow meter on a COPD patient. You can touch the flow meter on a COPD patient. You can have them on 100% oxygen. The key in all this is, even if you believe in the hypoxic drive theory, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, it's still about the amount of oxygen in the blood. And in this case, it was never elevated enough to create the problem. But quickly, to go through some literature on hypoxic drive theory, on why it's a
Gasparini et al. Year J of Resp. Dis. 1986. Okay.
myth. I went back and looked. The first thing I could find was all the way back to the 1960s, an Atlantic article that talked about hypoxic drive and worries with a COPD patient. So we're talking, what,
right?
60
it's just
years
testing rote memorization. I think
ago,
it's stupid.
Is when this was kind of first brought up. In the 80s, 20 years later, people started actually finally researching it and finding out that, you know what, it's not the case. And this one from 1980, increase in PaCO2 was found to be due to dead space change, not ventilating. So there was no knocking out of the hypoxic drive.
It's sure. Basically, what he's saying is giving someone an abundance of oxygen does not make their body suddenly want an abundance of oxygen, which is, you would think, common sense. Hi, penis. How are you, love?
So with this going back, 1986, another study was done. No one.
You just sit right there while I screenshot your ass, motherfucker. Yeah, and I was saying that earlier, Knives. That's one of the main reasons. One of the major, there's so many reasons all this shit pisses me off. But one of the major ones is that I agree with continuing education. Actually, I want a doctor, nurse, etc., who I know is up to date with today's knowledge and today's medical practices and cares. Like, I want that. That's not what this does. Like, this is not continuing education. This is just like, did you watch the slides?
Stopped breathing. There was no connection between PaCO2 and minute ventilation found. That's back in 1986. Here's another one, 1987. Study suggests hyperoxemic-induced hypercapnia in patients with COPD is not primarily related to hypercapnic or hypoxic.
Study suggests that hyperoxic-induced hypercapnia in patients with COPD is not primarily related to either hypercapnic or hypoxic drive, but that impairment in gas exchange appears to be the predominant factor contributing to hypercapnia. Yes, yep. Like, how old is the study he's referencing right now? Because I know this. I'm not that old. I haven't been in it that long. Interesante. I need to learn medical things. Lecture. I'll teach you some things. But first, here's Wonderwall. Seriously.
Drive. So
I wish I could just take tests out of a book.
1997. Oxygen-induced change in ventilation observed is equal to that expected from.
We conclude that the O2-induced change in ventilation observed is equal to that expected from the ventilatory drives and the changes in PaCO2 and SaO2, and that O2-induced hypercarbia does not indicate a failure of respiratory control mechanisms in the maintenance of PaCO2 homeostasis. O2-induced hypercarbia does not indicate a failure of respiratory control mechanisms in the maintenance of PaCO2 homeostasis. Okay, yeah, I get it. He just words it weird. Did I screenshot that? Did I get dick? No, I did not. Oh, dick. How you dickin' me? Feeling dicked. Don't know if this'll be on a test, but if it is, at least I'll fucking have it. Dick.
Ventilatory drives and changes in PaCO2. And once again, not from them having their hypoxic drive knocked out in 1997, 2002. So we're still doing it 20 years later, still looking to see, is the hypoxic drive true? Because people are still believing it. 36 patients recruited into this particular study, and what they found out is there was no significant.
How many students were in this study? Boo! Some stupid specific question come out of this. Fucking. Can't show history? I'm sorry, what? Clipboard? I'm sorry, did you just sass me like a bitch? Because I'll fuck you up. Are we all having fun yet? We should play games today. See how long this takes, though? So this is... Like, everybody that I've told about this, when I say 30 hours, y'all kind of puke in your mouth, but it really ends up about 100 hours. Because of this.
Difference between the two groups in the main outcome variable or poor outcome, which would be mechanical ventilation or death. So it was not found. There was no difference in hospital stay, no difference in PaCO2 or pH when the patient got high amounts of oxygen or lower amounts of oxygen. So even in 2002, still not 20 years worth of studies, all showing giving a COPD patient oxygen does not knock out their hypoxic drive.
Because we're all learning today. This is the main lesson we're taking away from this. What knocks out a hypoxic drive? Hypoxic meaning the drive to hold less oxygen and more CO2. What drives your body's CO2 control? Is it the amount of available oxygen? Or is it the rate volume of breath? Oh! This is why I laugh. Like, this all seems common sense to me because everything I was taught was the rate with which you breathe, the volumes you're given, your expiratory time. That's what affects your CO2. Blasting someone with oxygen does not affect CO2. That's what we're taught. And so when people say that shit out loud, I'm like, the fuck is happening? Why would anyone think that?
There's quite a few additional studies on this, but unfortunately, yet schools still teach the knocking out of the hypoxic drive. Clinically, you get told by physicians, nurses, and other RTs can't give O2 to a COPD patient. That's a problem, and it is not supported.
I've never been taught that, genuinely. So what I was taught was that, and in school and in practice and in general, you have a COPD patient, and what you're watching is their rate of breathing and the volumes they're breathing, because you don't want them to blow off too much CO2. Because it's a lot harder for those cells to re-grab those CO2s because they have that homeostasis. So like I was saying, you and I, our normal CO2 is around 35 to 45. Someone with emphysema or someone who just is a person who holds CO2 for any reason whatsoever, theirs is going to be 45 to 50, 55 to 60. I've seen it upwards of 70. Like, it's pretty crazy how high CO2 can be. But if that's someone's normal, we can feed you as much oxygen as possible. What we need to be watching heavily is your rate. The rate at which you're breathing and the volumes and depths and the length of time it takes you to expire. That's genuinely where we need to watch, because that affects your CO2, not the amount of O2 we're blowing at you. That's what I was taught, so it's interesting.
In the evidence. Most of the time, it's due to some unicorn situation to where they're like,
oh my God, is he trying to be fun right now? Oh, bless his silly little heart.
I had a friend who had a patient who they put him on oxygen. As soon as they put him on oxygen, they stopped breathing. There was some unicorn, and I bet you if we went back and we looked at that.
What do I say too often in my channel? We can never generalize personal experience. And this right the fuck here is why one person put oxygen on a COPDer and they stopped breathing, and that person went, oh fuck! Oxygen is proven to knock out the hypoxemic drive. Fuck it. And then they go tell all their friends that, and all their friends are like, oh my God, but this one time someone stopped breathing when they put oxygen on them, so we think maybe it has. You cannot generalize personal experience. One experience does not equal all of a sudden this is fact. That person could have stopped breathing for a million different reasons. We have no idea what's going on, but that right the fuck there is why I say that all the time.
Case, there was another reason for it, because all the data shows that the knocking out of the hypoxic drive is not a true thing.
Oh, shit, how was it?
For me, I added one.
I bet that shit's on the test. I have to pee so bad right now. It's fine. I'm doing fine. It's not that bad. I just kind of have to pee. I hope this is all on the test, because fuck me. I have so many of these documents saved, these like paint documents. It's ridiculous.
Fuck you with
where I just do this. Max Waters, thanks so much for subbing to the class, keeping the class alive, and giving any swings for 11 months. It's almost a fucking year, and I appreciate you. Go forth and be consensual in all the ways, because nothing in this world is sexy than pure sober consent. And thank you! Thank you!
One thing to the critical thinking can arise through. I added one. School is telling students
exactly. Pigs have hair, men have hair, therefore pigs are men. Wow! Same. You can never do that, and especially in medicine, but Jesus Christ, it just makes you sound so stupid when you're like, well, this one thing happened to my one friend or happened to me, and therefore it is the facts. No, stop. I know I'm preaching to the crowd here, but for God, I just hope that maybe someone's like, oh, wow. Wow. Wow.
Articles older than 5 to 10 years are not relevant. To me, that is a part of the problem, because it might have been that.
Barriers to critical thinking can arise through an over-reliance on feelings or emotions, self-centered or societal, cultural-centered thinking, conformism, dogma, peer pressure, unconscious bias or selective perception, an inability to be receptive to an idea or point of view that differs from your own, close-mindedness, unwarranted assumptions or lack of relevant information, fear of being wrong, anxious about taking out of your comfort zone, poor communication skills or apathy, lack of personal honesty, added one. Schools telling students that articles older than 5 to 10 years are not relevant. I was not told that. I was told that my papers had to be, like, within the last, I think, 50 years. Like, my citations and shit. This is what the entire, I'm not kidding you, Knives. I paid $35 for this, and it is a lesson in how to critical think in the ICU. It's, I have yet to do a continuing education course where I'm like, oh shit, I learned. I done learned up here just now. Like, I did one yesterday that was all about how nasal secretions will plug a nasal cannula, and so that's probably not the best modality of oxygen delivery. If I didn't pick that up in my work and or schooling, I shouldn't have this license. What? But I had to pay for that and watch it for an hour. It's fucking crazy. It's fucking crazy. Fucking crazy. I take screenshots. Because I don't want to write all that shit down.
Hey, back in the 80s, we proved it's not true.
Because once I take the test, I never have to think about it again.
Now, and your school said can't use
I got new
anything more
weed,
than
by the
5 to
way.
10 years of age, you're not going to see all of those. And so you're going to think, oh, well, there's no evidence out there. No, it's just that the evidence was done so well, so long ago,
it's so dumb,
nobody's
Knives.
been needed to repeat it. I never had that 5 to 10 year rule on relevance of data because I think you have to look at all the data to be able to figure it out. But back to actual cases, which are a whole lot cooler to deal with. You have a 27-year-old woman comes to the ER complaining of pleuritic chest pain. She takes birth control, otherwise no meds. Chest x-ray and physical exam are normal. Most of us, if we were the therapist walking in, we're like, yep, and I'm out. For this reason alone, I'm out. There's nothing here. We're good. There's no wheezing. There's no hypoxemia. Why am I here? I'm out.
I wouldn't.
This particular physician, and this was
ABG on RA shows 7.45 pH, PaCO2 is 31, bicarb is 21, O2 is 83. This is why you don't leave the fucking room. Why would you? You're working with terrible therapists, sir. No one would leave a room with pleuritic chest pain. Are you kidding?
real one as well. What's a newer physician?
My BBC, my big black cock. There is no other. What? Yeah, that's.
Actually got a blood gas on this individual, showed it to me, and it was 745, 31, 21, and 83. So now we have a patient that has a slightly alkalotic pH, slightly alkalotic CO2, bicarb
Alkalotic meaning basic.
normal, PaO2 is normal. So most people would be like, oh, they're just hyperventilating because they had a blood gas. They're fine. However, if you, once again, you remember your basics, because the easiest thing to do, and that's one of the reasons that people don't critically think, the easy thing is to walk out and say the patient's fine.
Wait, the BBC's
So
for a
remember
local church? Dude, if there were big black cocks at church, I might go more often, if not just for the atmosphere.
Your basics. Here, just do a simple PF ratio. You're going to go, oh, it's normal. It's 395. See, I took an extra step. I'm good. However, the thing that was kind of intriguing is this particular patient had a big AO2 that was 110, and when you did the AA gradient, that AA gradient, which is the difference between the alveolar oxygen level and the arterial oxygen level, was actually 27. Now that gradient
Alveolar versus arterial. So essentially, the AA gradient is seeing how much oxygen actually makes it to the blood from the alveoli of the lungs. What's that oxygen transfer there? We've talked about this a little bit, but there's a lot of different disease processes. Again, like COPD, like that's the major one we deal with as respiratory therapists, to be honest. But with COPD, what happens is because of that barrel chest breathing and the CO2 holding and whatnot, the alveoli get blown out and flappy, and they're no longer like tight little bubbles of perfect surface area for oxygen CO2 transfer. So you might be taking in oxygen into the alveoli, but it's not making the transfer across that barrier to the arterial blood and kicking off CO2s at the rate we would normally expect. That would be a fucked up AA ratio. Sorry.
increased due to CO2 changes by the patient. So the reason that that happened is the patient was hyperventilating, and now that's why that PaO2 is up. And if we remember, normal AA gradient is 5 to 15 in a normal patient. This person was almost double that, and in some cases was 6 times that. So there is a problem with getting oxygen from the alveoli to the capillary bed, as evident by the AA gradient.
I'm gonna guess that there is an infection in the pleura. Causing either an accumulation of fluid or pus or something that you can't see on an x-ray, because they said the x-ray is fine, but it might be like just enough that would cause a bad... Or... what else would cause that? The x-ray is fucking baffling me. I'm just guessing.
So what ended up happening, they ended up doing a CT scan, demonstrated pulmonary embolism. And if you remember from the original part of the story, birth control pills, well, birth control embolism is about 3 for every 10,000
This is how I almost died.
people. And while the rate is
Scary.
low, given the large number of oral contraceptives users in this country and across the world, possibility of this occurring is prevalent. In this particular case, patient had a small little PE, and that is what was causing the pleuritic chest pain, and that's what was also causing the increase in AA gradient. But many of us would have walked right past this particular blood gas and never honestly done any further.
I'm so sorry. You don't walk past that blood gas. Normal. 35 to 45. 35 to 45. 34? Maybe. 31, 21, 80? No, absolutely not. 745? Like, you're on your way. This blood gas to me, again, I hate it. This is very similar to the previous case study where it was like the RT was like, hey, I'd like a BiPAP and to move him up, and the doctor was like, man, let's try some high flow and a nebulizer. And then now we're all of a sudden at a crashing patient on an intubation schedule. This tells me this patient is on their way there, and I can intervene right now and put them on the track back to normal before we end up intubating. That's what this ABG says to me. I wouldn't leave this ABG.
Investigation, myself included, I probably would initially look, yeah, it's fine. But it is kind of weird. PaO2 of 83, room air, CO2 is 31. Hey, it really should be higher than that in this particular patient.
Yeah.
So barrier on this one was just lack of relevant information. They didn't go down to the level of getting an AA gradient to see what the issue and the problem was. Here's one of my other favorite ones. This was actually.
Did you see how fast you went past that slide so I couldn't fucking take a screenshot? You piece of shit, motherfucker.
The level of getting an AA.
And he doesn't read any of it. I don't know. I just never trust, like, what's going to be on this stupid 5 question. I honest to fuck, hope the quiz is longer than 5 questions. I don't, but I do. Just because how long this one is, for fuck's sake.
A gradient to see what the issue and the problem was.
Alonzi, how are you? Thank you.
This was actually a post on Facebook, so this was real. I love Facebook. I love being a part of RT groups and ICU groups to see cases. They're entertaining. This one was, we drew a blood gas on a 30-year-old male responding to a rapid response for a seizure. The first gas was 7.04, CO2 at 33, PaO2 at 244, bicarb at 37, no air in the sample. Second gas was drawn after given a liter of fluid, and now it's 734, 38, 107.22. And the question was, how can this be? How can there be this big of a turn in 1 hour after giving a liter of fluid? Can somebody please explain? And so for me, not even getting to the comparison of the two gases, I was fixated on the 704, 33, and 7 on the bicarb. And I'm like, those just don't seem to be adding up to be making sense. Yes, the patient should be acidotic, but it seems to be that they should be a little worse off than the 704. So once again, remembering the basics, I was sitting there going, well, let's check to make sure that these numbers are correct, because somebody can fat finger things on Facebook, can make mistakes. And lo and behold, when you use the HH equation, which by the way, I don't go through and calculate it. I've got a website that I go to and I just punch in the numbers and it does it, because I don't like using logs. But that's 704, 33, and 7. If that bicarb is 7 and the CO2 is 33, the pH should have been 6.95. So my answer that I put on there is, the answer is that we can't really do anything with this situation because the numbers are not valid. I'm not going to give you
the first gas don't make no sense.
Caused the difference between gas 1 and gas 2 if the data itself is not correct. So on this one, I
Smart
was like,
man.
ignore the gas, ignore the situation until we have correct data. Responses I received after I made that post was, you're wrong. I've seen a pH that low before. Please remember, I didn't say the pH couldn't be that low.
I don't mean to be fucked up, but the last time I saw pH that low, it was a dead child. That is death. Like, that's... I have no idea what the fuck got into that ABG to get that. That's... I mean, I can't tell you a time I've ever seen someone come back from a pH of that, to be honest. Death.
Low. I was just saying that it has to actually be lower given the current values.
What
Another
up, Bobo?
person
How
can't
are you,
calculate
love?
pH. It's a reported value. I've seen this very gas before. You don't know what you're saying. I've been in RT for 30 years, and that gas is very possible.
Responses I received when I posted my response. You're wrong. I've seen a pH that low before. You can't calculate pH. It is a reported value. Oh, no. Oh, boy. I don't know what. This is why I don't go into public anymore, because I don't know what to do. You can't calculate pH. It's a reported value. I have seen that very gas before. You don't know what you're saying. I've been in RT for 30 years, and that gas is very possible. Look at all the other responses. Everyone else says this is possible. This is a really dangerous hive mind. This is why we stay the fuck off Facebook. These kind of people, if I worked with someone who said things like this, I would sit down and have a very polite educational conversation with them and be like, you know what, let's draw pictures together. Like, let's learn together. And if they were completely, like, disillusioned to the fact that they're right and that there was no learning beyond, I probably would talk to a higher up, because this is some dangerous thinking. Just having, like, blind confidence because I've been in it for 30 years, absolutely not.
And then one person was like, look at all the other responses. Everybody else is saying this is possible, i.e.,
that one. Everyone else says it's possible. Obviously.
You're wrong. You're stupid.
That's the worst.
You don't know what you're talking
That's
about.
the worst.
Everybody else agrees with me. Those are all cases and presentations of barriers to critically thinking. Nobody actually
Is barrier to critical thinking just another way of saying dumb? I think it might be.
reported and looked at, hey, is he correct and wrong on what the pH should be? They were all more personal attacks or pulling from random experiences, and those are all barriers to being able to critically think. So they were all...
I bet that's on the test. I really hope they're on the test, because I'm taking... Every one of them. I'm just keeping all your
conformism,
slides,
inability
sir.
to view an idea that is different than mine as a possibility, and also, truthfully, a lack of relevant information. They obviously didn't remember the basics of the HH equation. And so what do they respond with? Has to be wrong, can't be right, no way, you're an idiot. Because they have barriers to critically thinking. So is this equation still needed in clinical practice? Yes. Did I go around doing this on a daily?
This is why I laughed when someone said pH. You can't calculate pH. It's a reported value. Any math people here that just kind of like blew snot out their nose when they said that out loud? Oh, look, it's a motherfucking pH calculation. We don't use it all the time. I'm not kidding you. That's what someone said. Someone's response to this, to his like issue he posted or whatever, was, and I quote, I could actually go back. Where's the slide? It was, I didn't take a picture of the things. It was, you can't calculate pH. It's a reported value. That, I'm not fucking with you, was actually how someone responded out loud to him. I'm guessing he puts this shit on Facebook or something. I don't fucking know where he's talking. There's a lot of older RTs that are part of, I can't remember what it's called, the respiratory like break room or something like that, which is like this massive worldwide Facebook group of respiratory therapists. But just like anywhere ever in the whole world, hive mind happens. Like imagine being a medical professional and responding to anyone with, "Look, everyone else agrees. Why don't you look at their answers? That obviously means you're wrong." Imagine. Scary.
Basis? No. It was just when I saw things that were like, that doesn't quite look right, I would go into the HH equation.
Oh. Sir, if that is your handwriting, I never want to follow your shift a day in my fucking life. What?
I'm going to do one more and then I will
No,
stop
it's me. I know. It's this screen making me look like a goddamn ghost.
questions that people might have. But here's an actual blood gas from a local hospital. 716, CO2 is 77, PaO2 at 316, bicarb at 27.8. Student brings this in and goes, here was the gas. And I'm like, cool. Let's first take a look at it and let's
My
analyze
paint
the data.
screen.
To me, this was an acute respiratory
Might be my
acidosis,
light too.
716, 77. The student was like, well, but this went out of range. I was like, it only went out of range because of hydrolysis. There's no real compensation going on. Every 10 rise in CO2, you're going to get a 1 rise in bicarb. And so this went up about 35, so this should have gone up about 4. Hey, take 4 away from this, we're in a completely
I don't know what that
normal
handwriting
range.
is, but I don't ever want to have
So there
to
was no
follow it.
compensation. This was purely an acute respiratory acidosis. They ended up intubating the patient. Now we're at 755, 26, 51, and 20. And the confusion was, how did the bicarb go down by so much so fast?
Because bicarb moves really, 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 really slowly. I know I've reiterated that, but I'm curious about that too. Like, what the fuck did they test to get a bicarb to change that fast? Because even if we give you bicarb, it takes hours to raise or lower. Bicarb raising or lowering is a result of your CO2 raising or lowering. And like he was saying, it's like a 2-to-1 almost. So as your CO2 rises, your bicarb will very slowly rise a little bit. So an elevated bicarb means we have a chronic issue. Not elevated bicarb or not a difference in a bicarb very much usually means we have an acute issue. So something that's happening right now immediately and isn't something your body has even had time to adjust to yet. I hit something. Was it a cord? Why is there a cord? Anyways.
Like bicarb takes
He's
time.
almost
when it's
done.
not down that fast. What's going on? Hydrolysis. Look at your CO2. It's 26. It was 77. So more CO2
yeah, they just
in the
watered him
blood
down.
creates more bicarb. When you got rid of all the CO2, now it's 26, your bicarb is going to drop. And it's a mathematical equation. Hydrolysis is much more than didactic ivory tower stuff. I get told all the time, well, that's an ivory tower, they use an academic. It's much more. There are clinical, this is a real blood gas that was causing confusion that was 100% due to hydrolysis.
People that like, I don't know, that it bothers me when people are like, anybody that says it couldn't be that, I wouldn't want to work with that person. Like, there's always a possibility of everything. Like, you can totally not believe in someone's theory as to what's happening, but you can still acknowledge it and look into it because you just never know.
That was 100% due to hydrolysis.
I'm going to screenshot that just in case because I don't trust you and your stupid quiz. And I hope you feel bad about that. Boop. Almost done. And then I swear I'll never, I don't know. I didn't mean to do this to you guys. I've done it before. I did all my tests on stream before and it was terrible too.
So I'm going to kind of kick to the end here. So to be a critical thinker.
You gonna kick to the end past all your quiz questions,
hydrolysis.
maybe? You piece of shit, motherfucker.
Fusion that was 100% due to hydrolysis. Kind of kick to the end.
We already got that one.
So to be a critical thinker, what do you need to avoid? Avoid confirmation bias. Avoid self-serving bias, which is what is the easiest for you. Avoid that normalcy
The
bias where you're
easiest for
sitting
me
there
is
going, well, this is what everybody
screenshotting
else is
you.
doing. This is what I've always done. Those are all barriers to you being a critical thinker.
That's
Make
concerning.
sure that you avoid those types of things so that you don't get into those particular
This
situations.
is so dull.
So
I
with
feel,
that,
I
I'll
don't
end with
know.
my dog and my cat. Yes, they do actually love each other this much. He uses her as a headrest all the time.
That was part of it? Okay, I have to pee so bad. I'm literally gonna pee my pants. I've drank so many beverages. Stand up, stretch your legs, load a bowl, do what you need to do. I'll put on music. I'll be right back. Gotta pee. Gotta pee. Gotta pee. Gotta pee. Cannot. Should we look at the quiz? As much as I'd like to move on as fast as possible from this, I feel I should do the quiz, at least try it and fail it, and then I have to do it again later. But I haven't done a Drager quiz in a while, so I don't know what the quizzes are like. Like, I genuinely just don't know what they're like. I haven't done this website's quizzes in a bit, so I'm gonna write it down real quick. Hold on. I feel like I need some oxygen after that. Fucking tell me about it. I grabbed the case, David, as much as I want to look at it right now. I genuinely have to read all these respiratory therapy cases and go through them. So as much as I want to, I do not want to read another case at all. But I'll save it, and maybe if I'm ever in the mood. I've just read so many goddamn cases in the past couple days, I'd rather choke on it. It's just I'm so tired. My brain is so full of shit, but I saved it, so maybe sometime when I'm not so fucking tired. I have this incredible ability to predict what's inside a wrapped present. It's a gift. You're magic. People too busy nerding out on MRI machines ain't got no time to learn how to write. Leave the fancy writing to the surgeons, dude. It's okay if no one has to read your notes. Like, I'm not opposed to you doing whatever you need to do, but if like with respiratory therapy especially, we get a chart, like a sheet, and we write all of our orders on it, and then we have to give a report at the end of the night, and then we give our sheet to that person. So, like, that person takes notes, but then we give our notes to them, and if I had to follow that person, I have no fucking idea how I would get through that person's handwriting. Like, type it then. I don't know. Get a label printer and just print your notes. I don't know what the fuck to do. That's illegible. That's crazy. Like, it's human lives. I'm not just trying to be judgy. I have to read your handwriting. Exactly. People really died because of terrible handwriting. I don't know. Maybe I wouldn't be able to read that. Like, if that was a sheet I got, I would call that employee or find out who wrote that shit and double check all that information. Or look at their charting on the computer. I'd have to. I wouldn't trust that. I wouldn't do any medication or anything based on any of that. Because I just wouldn't know what the fuck it said. Excuse me. Hopefully they could, I mean, I hope so too. Oh yeah, I was gonna go to the beginning of the module and see if there's anything I didn't screenshot real quick.
Dr. Light is the Dean of Health Sciences at Ozark Technical
Most
Community College.
Most quizzes you can literally take as many times as you fucking want. Him, okay. I hope there's no questions about you. That'd be fucking stupid. I forgot what I was saying. Anyways, sorry. My brain's so mushy. Analytical thinking versus critical thinking. I wonder if that a person, I mean, I should be able to, it's so stupid because they'll want his definition. Not any other definition. If it's on the quiz, they'll want his definition of whatever it is. I hate tests, and I think they're a stupid way of judging intelligence.
Analyze the situation, they break down the problem, and
we don't want to hear you anymore.
Similar thing, situation to the next. So that analytical.
I'm just screenshotting shit. Don't worry. I guess you can watch me do it if you really want to. We'll do something fun. Maybe we'll play Jackbox games or something when this is all over with. Because this is terrible. I hate this. I just don't feel like I'm learning, man. You guys know me. I love learning. This isn't learning.
When people think about critical thinker, not together, really creative, crazy person. But when you look at critical thinking, there's barriers that can arise.
I think this is, yeah, overline, blah, blah, blah. Oh. Wait, are we watching this again? No, I'm just going through it and I'm capturing screenshots that I didn't capture already. Before I do the fucking test. That's it. I don't know if I captured these screenshots because I did it a day ago, so my brain's fuzzed on it. God damn it. That's all I'm doing. I'm fast forwarding.
Person, if this actually. So
what are the basic steps? His steps to critical thinking, I bet. Which, like, oh god, I don't know. I'm just gonna bitch about it all day. I fucking hate this shit.
What are the
I'm just gonna grab all the slides because I can't go back to this during the test, which is really annoying. Patient starts fighting the ventilator. In this case, it was VDR. SpO2 dropping, HR, doom and gloom, emotional response followed by clinician. We need to change out the vent. What? Sure. Whatever. That seems like a stupid response. Change out the fucking vent? Why would you change out the vent for that? Okay. Whatever. I'm accepting it. We're just doing it for... See all of these. I have so many of these stupid lectures open.
So fancy ventilator, be a kind of emotional.
I like the not fancy ventilators. They're much more trustworthy.
We come in, we're looking at the VDR, and the look nurse goes, "Well, I wouldn't look to get barrier to critical thinking here. Poor communication skills. You're out."
It's just all the same. We were at 20 minutes. What to avoid? Blah, 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 blah. Womp, 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 womp.
Be wrong. I'll guarantee you what you're going to find is evidence that
every 5 years
your case. Problem is the person that you might be arguing with went
30 credits every 5. It's not terrible.
And found conflicting evidence. So when I teach research courses, I always, and what I'm trying to bias is, so we just hate
them
to tell us. I got a phone call. There was a 58-year-old female in the.
All right, and that's where we started earlier. So now we can try the test and see if we fail it, pass it. I don't know. We shall see. You guys get to see what a test looks like. I can't even believe this is the second set of these I've been here for. Isn't that weird? I know. This is the second time I've done these on. That means it's been 5 years. The fact that any of you remember that's kind of amazing. No time limit. Pass mark. We hopefully can take it again. The difference between analytical thinking and critical thinking is the direction individuals using them take to think about information. He didn't give us that slide. The difference between analytical thinking and critical thinking is the direction individuals using them take to think about the information. Boom. Slide. Oh, and he's not going to tell us if we're right. That's nice. I told you, they're not education questions. Analytical thinking can be described as which of the following. And again, we have to look at his definition of analytical thinking. Zoom in a little bit. Whoa, that's not what I said to do. Oh, you can't just do the zoom in I want? Okay, because you're a piece of shit. A person who can use logic and critical thinking to analyze a situation. Oh, wait, no, that was an analytical thinker. Hold on, let's do this. Analytical thinking can be described as what? Didn't he have a definition? I hate that I have to look for his fucking definition because I'm not an idiot. A person who can use logic and critical thinking to analyze a situation, good at breaking down problems into smaller parts to find solutions. More linear and focused, unfocused and scattered, circular in thinking, jumps between different thoughts. It's none of his definition. This is what pisses me off. What would you put? A person who can use logic and critical thinking to analyze a situation. More linear and focused, unfocused and scattered, circular in thinking, jumps between different thoughts. I mean, it's obviously A because the other three don't make any sense and are stupid, but that's not what he gave us. This is why school is stupid and the world is idiotic. Like, it has to be that, right? His definitions are so stupid. Analytical thinking, a person who can use logic and critical thinking to analyze a situation. Critical thinking, a person who makes reasoned judgments that are logical and well thought out. Sure. Critical thinking can be described as which of the following? None of them. Linear and focused, more circular, move from one though to the next. They have a fuck. They can't even spell the questions right. Oh. They are. This is what I'm telling you. This is why this shit is so frustrating, because none of this aren't those two the same answer? Move from one thought to the next. Critical thinking can be described as which of the following? That nothing says circular. Or do you mean the next slide? These are all different slides. Sorry, it's really put together. A difference between critical thinking and analytical thinking and critical thinking is the direction individuals using them take to think about information. Analytical thinking is more linear and focused, whereas critical thinking is more circular. There we go. There's the answer. It wasn't in his definitions, though, and I hate him for that, and I hope he trips on Legos. When individuals think analytically, they tend to move one from thought to the next straight information. They tend to move one from thought to the next straight information. That's just terribly written, right? Yeah. Think about it more circularly. There's a few typos. I just want to get it right, honestly, because like I said, these tests don't. They're like I'm showing you. They're just It's not telling you that I learned anything. I don't know. Describe the potential barriers that may arrive when critical thinking. Barriers. Over-reliance on feelings and emotions, unwanted assumption, unconscious bias, or selective perception. Egos. It's all of the above. I'm pretty positive. Barriers. Over-reliance on feelings or emotions, self-centered or societal, cultural-centered thinking, unconscious bias or selective perception, an inability to be receptive to an idea or point of view that differs from your own, lack of relevant information, fear of being wrong, poor communication skills or apathy, lack of personal honesty. Would ego be in there? It has to be, because it's not just one of those, it's all of those. I don't know. We'll see. Critical thinking is everything below except knowing all the answers, remembering what you've learned in school, protocol thinking. Did anybody hear anything about protocol thinking? Shut the fuck up. Did you just growl at nothing? I'm not taking your growling today, Miss Ma'am. Critical thinking is everything below except. Critical thinking is not knowing all the answers. It's not knowing all the fancy stuff. Know your basics. Remember what you learned in school. Is everything except. Creative thinking, protocol thinking. Critical thinking is not protocol thinking and is not knowing all the answers. So A and C. People have the dumb. I know. I know. I love this. This is how I do tests. A bit more yelling. Do you love this? I fucking hate tests. I'm so anxious. Like, I hate them. I'm bad at them. I second guess myself. I get pissed about it. I don't know. Like, I almost can't get past my own ego about, like, how stupid the test is just to do the fucking test. In one example, Dr. Light I hate this. In one example, Dr. Light stated simply, asking what happened before the issue presented itself is a path to critical thinking to solve the problem. What? In one example, I hate this because do you remember this one example that Dr. Light talked about one time? No. No, I don't. He talks far too slow. In one example, Dr. Light stated simply asking what happened before the issue presented itself is a path to critically thinking to solving the problem. I mean, no shit. I'd say true, but I hate this. By looking for information or others that prove your opinion improves your critical thinking skills. By looking for information or others that prove your opinion false. It just makes you stupid. These are stupid. Which of the following statements are true? Providing your opinion is correct first look for the support of others is critical thinking. These are worded so... What the fuck are these questions? Proving your opinion is correct first look for the support of others is critical thinking. I hate this. Confirmation bias, self-serving, and normalcy bias are all biases to be successful in critical thinking. Confirmation bias, self-serving, and normalcy biases are all biases to avoiding critical thinking. What has always been done is always the way to proceed when using your critical thinking skills. It's embarrassing. I'm embarrassed for them. What to avoid? Confirmation bias, self-serving bias, and normalcy bias. Are these tests the same each year and just going for a loop, or because this is terrible? They're the same, yes, basically. They're not the exact same tests. I don't do the exact same tests every year because I would just save the answers and fly through them in 2 seconds. But it's the same shit we have to do every time we do it, and it's never been different. It's always womp 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 womp, and then these stupid fucking tests that mean nothing and don't prove anything and don't say I'm smart in any way, shape, or form. I don't know. Getting back to the basics, and what we learned in school provides the resources needed for critical thinking and better decision making. Sure. Getting back to the basics and what we learned in school provides the resources needed to critical thinking and better decision making. Yeah, duh. But you could say that's false for some stupid fucking reason that I don't understand. I know. It's mind-numbing, and I have to do 30. Like, after this, I have 19 left. It's just, and they, like, you can see, without teaching you guys and talking to chat, they take forever because I'm pausing it, I'm taking screenshots, and I'm taking notes, and I have, like, this whole thing of just, like, constant information. It's mind-numbing. It's fucking mind-numbing. One last barrier to critical thinking that Dr. Light presented. Quote, schools telling students that articles older than 5 to 10 years are not relevant is not true. Wait, one last barrier to critical thinking that Dr. Light presented. He did present this. Schools telling students that articles older than 5 to 10 years are not relevant is not true. Keep looking. True, right? The way that's worded is fucked up and I hate it. I don't know. Review my answers. Complete. Oh shit, we got 100%, bitches. Let's fucking go. Cheers? We deserve this. Cheers. Nope, the topic of this lesson was memorize what Dr. Light says because Facebook people got mad at him. The topic of this one was critically thinking in this ICU. But like, this is, again, just another example of why this pisses me off, because that was so easy. I mean, not easy, but the test is so short. It had no relevant information that really was like, how to be a good respiratory therapist and save lives, yet I have to do this. So now we have to go rate the course. The content matched the stated objectives, sure. I'm just going to give you all strongly agree so you get paid. Because this poor person probably gets fucking shit on. Sure. Sure. Overall, the presentation was well organized, sure. Whatever. And then I gotta write it down. I did. Critical thinking in the ICU 2024. And that is 1 CEU we all just did together out of 30. That's the way they all are clutch. No shit, they're so infuriating. Because like I said, like I had to take pictures of all these case studies because a lot of the times it's just memorization. These tests, these little tiny quizzes I just took, that's all they're doing is like, did you actually watch the video? That's it. So they'll ask, like, in case study number 2, Mrs. Williams, what was her SpO2? Like, that is not relevant to me being a good respiratory therapist, remembering some fucking case study number. But there's a lot like that out there. And then I have to go into all the lessons and just add a shit ton of lessons in. And it's just a lot. So you have to go to the learning library. And then you have to put it in CRCE because that means it'll be respiratory therapy stuff. And then I just get to pick. And I got to do 30 of them. I don't know. It's a lot. But that's it for today. Because that was mind-numbing. And I think we're all done with respiratory therapy for the day, yeah. We all learned how to critically think together. Because we're awesome like that. Yeah, we did it. We've got our credits. Some of them. Giggle dick? What? You are like the 4th person today to just randomly say like dick, pussy, or penis in chat, and I don't get the joke, and I don't know what's happening. What's happening? Thank you. I mean, they're not, like you see, they're not hard. I got 100%. Penis. I got 100%. They're not hard quizzes. They're just stupid. Like, if the quizzes were actually on RT information, like how to take care of a patient and how to keep a patient alive, I could do them without doing any of these without even watching the lectures. But because it's like, do you remember what this man said specifically about this topic specifically? Prove that you watched this goddamn lecture, then we have to prove we watched the goddamn lecture. By memorizing, and it's stupid. I hope you're doing well, Sec. How are you? The quiz was just dumb. Let's look at what kind of Jackbox games we have. We have so many games we haven't played before. What was the one we left off on yesterday? We played a shit ton of Murder Party 2, and then we played something else. What was it? Hold on, I'm just gonna open up one. Let's see. Let's fucking see. Ooh, it's excellent. I'm so excited. It's not expanding our education in any way, shape, or form. Hertz, have you ever felt educated by continuing education? Ever? I've never hit a these are literally, I could list these courses that I've been doing. History theory of high frequency ventilation, the ethics of ambiguity, life and death in the NICU, HFJV lung protective and percussive strategies, restoring gas exchange capacity with intrapulmonary percussive ventilation, transcutaneous monitoring, routine and advanced pediatric sleep studies, ventilation and proactive respiratory care in the PICU with transcutaneous monitoring, supporting key initiatives in VLBW infants with transcutaneous CO2 technology, balancing brain and lung protection in the NICU using transcutaneous CO2. See the theme? Transcutaneous is big this year. Non-invasive CO2 monitoring and sleep diagnostics methods, limitations, and benefits. It's mind-numbing. But it's just like, you know what it feels like? And this is all just like personal theory, bias, whatever. In my personal opinion, They just need to keep making money off us. We pay for our licenses when we graduate, and then we have to keep paying to maintain these medical licenses our entire lives if we want to keep them. And it's another way of sales companies to not only get some money out of us because we have to pay for these courses, but it's also just sessions on training us on how to use their equipment. So like Draeger is a ventilator company. They sell ventilators. I have worked with many Draeger or Draeger, I don't know how the fuck you pronounce it, Draeger ventilators out there. So of course Draeger's going to offer me a bunch of courses on how to be an ethical respiratory therapist using Draeger ventilators. Passimure valves are the valves we put on trachs so people can talk. Passimure will offer lots because they want me to, like, we were talking about this recently. You know, words that replace a thing? I can't think of an example of one right now, but like Coke replacing just pop or soda or whatever. Like there are words that like are products, like Xerox, exactly. That's what Passimure has done. I don't physically know another company that makes a valve to put on a trach so someone can speak. It just is a Passimure valve. That's just what we call that thing, but that's a brand. And so I think by them offering all this training to me, they can slowly implant that Passimure is the only thing. Like Windex. We don't say glass cleaner. We say, I need some Windex. You might get a different weird all-surface cleaner you use on your windows, but we say Windex. The whole pharmaceutical industry as a whole, 100%. And that's why I can't go into sales. Like, no shit. Ventilator sales drove my dad to be a raging alcoholic and die. That's how terrible, like, the money's great, but working in it and selling your soul, like, I don't want anything to do with that in any way, shape, or form. Like, there's no amount of money in the world that would make me feel okay about any of that. Like, no shit. My dad eventually went to a company party, got so plastered, he told his boss, this new ventilator's gonna fail and take the company down, and his boss fired him on the spot. Guess what happened to that company? Their shitty new ventilator took the entire company down, and they fucking failed, but that drove my dad under and he literally died when I was 7. It was horrible. I don't ever want to be in sales. Ever. I'll just sell myself. Okay, so we have Murder Party 2. We could always play more of that because that was pretty cool. We have role models. Everybody's somebody, so who are you? The planner, the flake, the sassy one? Only your friends know the real you, and now they have the perfect excuse to tell you all about it. Joke boat. This one is speaking. I don't have audio hooked up to this computer. This one's Dictionarium. Humans have been inventing words and phrases for centuries. Now it's your turn to contribute an entry to the pages of the Dictionarium and push the button, which is deception, writing, and drawing. This would need lots of moderation if anybody's willing. Your ship has been invaded by aliens who look just like your best friends. Find the imposters and eject them into space before the timer runs out and we're all doomed. I don't know what the fuck that one is. Any interest in any of those? Kleenex and Sharpies, those are good ones. Yes, absolutely. Sharpies. Oh, yeah. Reminds me of the doctors that get their licenses and then never learn anything else. Their stagnant knowledge only works some of the time. And then there's the doctors who continue to read and learn are actually great physicians. Exactly, Silver. And that's the conflicting opinion I have in my head is I am pro continuing education. And I would think that every single medical professional in our chat right now is also very pro continuing education. This just isn't it. Like, I independently continue my education by reading things and reading reports and stuff like that, but none of these CREs continue my education in any way, shape, or form. If anything, it's just reiterating shit I already know that is, like, the basics of school, how to critically think, which is probably a good refresher course, but, like, did that do it? I love learning, too, and that's what I'm saying, Hurts. Like, that's what kills me. I love learning. This isn't learning, though. Like, you guys know me. I love learning. I learn all day. I love it. It's my crack. I just want to fucking smoke learning all day. I still remember the moment my stepdad moved in with encyclopedias. Like, oh my fucking God. I was so ecstatic. I love that shit, but this isn't it. I don't feel like I'm learning anything. I'm just, like, sitting here trying to rote memorize some individual's opinion on some topic so I can get a test right. Exactly. CEUs are important. Execution is crap. Yes. No one wants a doctor that's still working off information from the 50s. You don't want an RT that's working off information from pre-COVID. So I continually educate myself on all the procedures, on everything we're constantly doing all the time, but it's none of this. This doesn't do it. The CEUs have never done it. It's just memorizing past tests. That's it. Just get it over with. I'm no longer a farm tech, but I'll always love to study medicine, herbology, and the knowledge of natural remedies. Pharmaceutical companies frustrate the hell out of me. They're all money. It's just like medicine, unfortunately, and I hate to talk about it that way, but medicine, insurance companies, etc. It's all, like, I was talking about that a little bit earlier today before we jumped into doing that quiz. It's like this fucking, you're 50-50. You're 50% a health professional, but you're 50% always worried that someone's going to sue you, even though you did nothing wrong. Like, I could do literally nothing ethically, morally, and against my work, like what my job description is. I could do nothing wrong, and people can still sue me. I can get sued because I tried to save someone's life. It won't work because we have good Samaritan laws that protect me, but they can try. It's just really fucked up that you're always kind of in this 50-50, 1 foot in, 1 foot out, because you have to protect yourself. Like, how else do you protect yourself? It sucks. I love to learn, though. Learning is fun. And I think, like, almost any topic can be presented in a way that's entertaining or captures your information or makes it interesting. And that's why, like, I like to break it down. When he was mentioning, he just glazes over AA gradient and says real quick what it is. But breaking it down, it gets really interesting because then you're like, what are alveoli? Oh, my God, you mean my lungs are made up of hundreds of thousands of microscopic tiny little bubbles constantly producing gas exchange into the arteries of my blood? Oh my God, what vessel is going down there that's actually getting the oxygen and taking it to the rest of my body? Oh, the pulmonary artery? Crazy. You mean there's a level of blood going from the heart that's not oxygenated? You mean that rule of veins versus arteries doesn't matter the whole time? Amazing. Tell me more about that. Yeah. Pulmonary artery goes to the lungs, gathers oxygen, kicks off CO2. Pulmonary vein takes oxygenated blood back to the heart, and then the heart pumps it out the aorta into the rest of the vessels. And, like, the more you know, the more it leads you down this path of knowing more and more, and you just get curious. And I think being curious and maintaining curiosity is how we keep learning. Versus this, there ain't no fucking, I'm not curious. I'm not curious. I just want you to stop talking, because I feel like I'm listening to Ben Stein. I'm over it. Lungs are just bundles of fleshy popcorn, as one of my professors once jokingly said. Do you want to know what one of my professors seriously said one time? You'll love this. Hold on. This was way early school, and backstory on this, my mom is a respiratory therapist. My biological dad was a respiratory therapist. His mother was an inhalation therapist nun before respiratory therapist existed. My dad actually helped found the program for respiratory therapists to get licensed in the United States of America before he drank himself to death. Stop! He was like number 10 or 11 of all licensed therapists ever. It's kind of crazy. Anyways, neither here nor there. Just to set that up, I was kind of already a little knowledgeable when I went into school. Like, I grew up around medical people my whole life, so I had, like, a backing. You know, I had a foundation going on, and I took Biology 101. This was, like, freshman year. And my biology teacher, I don't know, we were talking about organ systems or something, and she says, and I quote, "Did you guys know that your lungs actually close at nighttime? And if you listen really carefully, first thing in the morning, every morning, when you take your first big breath, you can hear all the individual alveoli reopening. Pop, 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 pop." She said that out loud to hundreds of freshmen. And my brain literally, what the fuck, you lying cunt? I didn't say that, but that was my brain, like, that. No, that's called atelectasis. When your lungs collapse, you die. What the fuck are you? No. But she's straight up. There's no one controlling that information. There's no one watching that shit. It was weird. I definitely wrote that in her review. Don't worry. Oh, my dinner time conversations were always fucking wild. That's why I think it's fun when you guys want to know about butthole stories and stuff, because that was me as a child. Every day my mom came home. She came home around 7:30, 8 o'clock at night, sometimes later depending on traffic. She'd be in her scrubs. She'd cook us dinner like superwoman, like genuinely. She'd work a 13-hour shift, come home and cook dinner for 8 kids and her husband. Crazy. Cook dinner for everybody, and we'd sit down at the table, and it would just be like, "What did you pull out of people's butts today, Mom?" And she'd just be like, "Oh my sweet God." And then we'd get the stories of all the things pulled out of butts for the day. or so on and so forth. Like that was dinner time. That was oftentimes very much dinner time conversation was just like, what did you pull out of someone? So it was really like, I was kind of built for that career because when I got into it, people were like, oh my God, you hear we pulled out of someone? I'm like, whatever, I've been hearing about this all kid. Pull shit out of people forever. Like, this is just the history of humans, is pulling shit out of people. Not actual shit, but, you know, things out of people. I know. You know what's crazy, Mike, is I can still see her face, and she did this. I can still see this professor's face and doing this pop, 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 pop. And I was just sitting in this audience of hundreds of kids like, what? That's not true. That's a fucking lie. Are you kidding? You're saying we all just get these spontaneous pneumos at nighttime? I don't fucking think so. I didn't know the wording for that yet, but I knew what the fuck was going on. Sometimes actual shit. Actually, sometimes shit. I have had a patient, if you've heard the story, poop fountain. This patient had an reversed ileostomy that didn't work, and they just kept on eating, and then their belly blew up, and then they coded, and then we tried to code them, and the pressure of the compressions, because, you know, I was teaching you guys this the other day, those straight-armed fucking heavy-ass body compressions caused all the poop to come out his mouth. And everyone in the room with their, like, gowns on, because this was a C. diff patient, in unison, no, like with their cloaks, you know, to cover their faces. It was fucking wild. They survived, by the way. This eye has been twitching all day. I don't tell stories unless the person is here to laugh with us. At least they were at the time to laugh with us. I will never, so don't ever worry. Like, I'm not here laughing at people's fucking demise. That is just not how we fucking roll in any way, shape, or form in my channel. Oh, absolutely, C. diff. Yeah, I'm kind of grateful, to be honest, that they had C. diff, because the smell was horrible, everything was horrible, worst situation ever, but we already had gowns on. If that patient didn't have C. diff, all we would have been is masked and gloved. That's it. We would have been in there just like, in it. You know what I'm saying? Like, at least we had something. So, small blessings. The constipated mathematician, he worked it out with a pencil. Sronlin, a friend of mine, had a patient that I'm not fucking with you when I tell you. They actually carried around one of those, like, collector's tiny little teaspoons, you know, that, like, someone would collect in little, like, wall-hanging trinket boxes, the same way they collect thimbles. She had one in her purse, and my friend was changing her at the home. And when she went to put her diaper up, the lady goes, no, there's more, and starts rustling around in her bag, pulls out this tiny spoon and hands it to my friend and says, dig. So. How's everyone doing? I'm clogged. Oh, yes. Yes. Oh, man. My story of that similar situation, which I know you'll fucking love because we were talking about all this respiratory stuff today. So I was talking about different modes of ventilation, right? So we've got BiPAP, CPAP, intubation, high flow, etc. We've got a trach. A lot of people just live with a trach at home. They cap it so then they can speak and drink and eat and, like, function as normally as possible. But a lot of people just function with a trach. And they come into the ER sometimes, and we always want to check said trach. We'll replace it if need be. You know, we give you one, whatever. And I had a patient come in, and they called me down to the ER for shortness of breath or something like that. And so I come down to the ED, walk into the room, and the patient's just sitting there with the gaping little hole in their neck, stoma, if you will. And I'm like, Miss Ma'am, where is your trach? And she's like, rummages around in her purse. Fucking course she does. Pulls that fucker out and fucking. Sorry about that, honey. Twitchy eye again. There are no words. let's not, maybe some distilled water and vinegar. I don't know. Our mouth isn't it. Why is it in the bottom of your purse? Like, I had so many questions in the moment. I think I was so stressed, I don't even remember what I asked or what happened. But, like, that happens a lot. We have a lot of situations like that. But why? The world may never know. Why? We just, yeah. Cheers. We got fucking games. I was trying to, I guess I'll just pick a random one. I don't know. Brushes off. She sucked it off. Sorry, I opened a game. She sucked that. It was... Oh, and I got new weed. I wanted to show you my new weed. Hold on. Put us into this party pack. Anywho. I picked the dictionarium one because this seems low stress. There's no drawing or anything, so we can warm up. It would be a new code today. I don't know if there'll be modding on this one, though. Let's look at it. This one said it was just writing, so I'm gonna choose the right monitor. Holy shit, it did it. Okay, this is the story. Greatest personal injury case I've ever heard. Chris Goodnow, an estimated Valley attorney, has picked up a client who's suing a sex toy company. Said client purchased a butt plug that was advertised as, quote, 100% silicone. Client wears butt plug to MRI, magnetic resonant imaging appointment, magnetic. Much to client's dismay, butt plug is in fact has a metallic core. Butt plug is accelerated at the speed of sound into client's chest cavity. Described in memo as, quote, anal railgun. Client survived with major injuries. Same. That's what I said. I wouldn't want to survive this. I wouldn't want to survive it. I don't know. Just to break down the, like, educational anatomy part of it. So what we're looking at here, down here, ureter, pelvic bone, what I believe to be the bladder, right here. And then this is a kidney, and this is a kidney. And this white, I don't know if you can tell my cursor, it's very pale, but this big white feature right here, that's the patient's liver. That was 1 second. Yeah, lots of people plug as like a daily activity, part of their kink world. There's nothing wrong with that. Please don't do it to a hospital appointment. Yeah, we're not kink shaming in any way, shape, or form here. We're just, this is educational. This is a moment of just like, maybe this isn't the place and time. Like, we don't know, like maybe this patient was in a car accident and didn't know they were going to an MRI, going through an MRI today. Like, we don't know. We don't know the details. Yeah, we're not kink shaming in any way, shape, or form here. This is just educational, but that is 1 second. And we've all seen like a chair fly at an MRI machine and shit. Like, there's videos all over the internet of that. You can go look that up. It's fucking crazy. It's fucking crazy. Just crazy. Crazy. All right, what do we got? So, we have tried Murder Party. We have tried Dictionarium. Role models. I don't know. This one, it seems like another typing one. Joke boat. Writing and speaking. Can't do that one. I don't have audio set up. And then this one. Your ship is invaded by aliens who look just like your best friends. Find the imposters and eject them into space before the timer runs out, or we're all doomed. Drawing, writing, and deception. That one's pretty long. That one says it's like a 20-minute game. But I have a shit ton more party packs. This is just party pack, what, 6? Does it say anywhere? No, doesn't. Just cool. Party pack 6. There it is. Says it on the bottom. Party pack 6. This is party pack 6. I got a lot of them though. If you guys know a game on a different party pack you want to play, I don't. So 7, madam. Why? Why? Dumbass dogs. Love them so much. I honestly don't know how many party packs there are. A lot. Okay, so this one has Knock Your Bong Over Day. This one has Talking Points. Speaking, I can't do that one. I don't have audio routed into this. Player, this one is Quiplash. We played Quiplash. The Devil's in the Details. Puzzle Strategy Roleplay. Congratulations, demons! You'll be moving to an average suburban neighborhood where you'll take part in the pointless and highly stressful rituals of mortal life. No idea. Never played it. Champed Up. Drawing and writing. Enter the Scrollazium, where player-created characters fight over unusual titles. Heavy favorites are pitted against underaged underdogs to create hilarious high-octane matches. And then Blather Round, which is trivia and writing. Blather Round is a guessing game full of blundering, stumbling, and yes, blathering. Describe pop culture items to your friends, but you'll never get quite the right words. I'd try any of them, honestly. Blather Round and Devil in the Details sounds fun. Being demons that have to do everyday activities like a demon. You want to try those two? Sure, let's fuck it. It's bizarre, but like in a highly entertaining. And I feel like it keeps us going. There's no like dead, how do you put it? There's no like dead zones in the game where we're all just kind of sitting and waiting for something. Like we're all kind of doing something at the same time. And I love audience participation. Please don't get me wrong. It just like, I don't want people to think players are cheating or whatever because they're taking answers from chat. Like, if you want to play and guess stuff, just join the audience. It's super casual. You can participate when you want and not participate when you don't want to, and it just keeps you in the audience no matter what for each game. So then you can guess and actually get points, but then it doesn't look like anybody's quitting. That's it. Genuinely. Like, I love community participation. That's the whole fucking point of it. Like, dead air, exactly. Just me sitting here, like, panicking at something for like 10 minutes. Like we played one earlier today just like that, Glut. There was so much dead time. Which game was it? Was that the demon one? Yeah, I think it was the demon one. Like it seems cute, but you would definitely need everybody to be in Discord at least. Like vocal communication you would have to have. And it's like so fast and so rapid. I'm just sitting here staring at a screen that no one can see. Because I guess it's, I don't know if that's cheating or not. I don't know. It felt a little shitty. So that one, like, I think we'd get better at if we had a group. The demon one was not good for the audience. I would agree. Like, it was me just sitting here, like, trying to figure it out and panicking. There wasn't a lot of, it wasn't like a step-by-step linear process to the game. It was very random, very scattered. Not super fun. Whereas this one, I could see myself just enjoying watching it because it's fast-paced enough. I like this one. This one was Blather Round. What? So, let's see. What did we not like today? Bloop, 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 bloop. Tammy, we're not summoning that. This was just one blonde urethra. Let me tell you, I'm loving every minute of it. Oh, uncomfortable. Okay. Did we play Talking Point? No, that's a speaking one. We can't do that one. We played Quiplash. We like that. The Devils and the Details. Like, I don't even know if it would be fun to watch if you could see the screen that I'm working off of, because genuinely it's not entertaining. It's just like answering questions and shit like that and doing random stuff. So we played that one, not a huge fan. We played Blather Round and we liked Blather Round. We can favorite. I'm going to favorite Blather Round and Quiplash we know we like. The last one in this group, which is Party Pack 7, would be Champed Up. And this one is drawing and writing, 3 to 8 players and 20 minutes-ish per round. Enter the Scrollaseum, where player-created characters fight over unusual titles. Heavy favorites are pitted against underdogs to create hilarious, high-octane matches. Amazing. So maybe we'll try that one some other time. That being said, movie night starts in less than 1 hour in our Discord. Be there or be square, and I need to go get my dogs entertained before that point, so I'm going to find someone to raid. Thank you from the bottom of my soul for hanging out with us today. I appreciate you. These games are necessary. Thank you. Also, I've almost blacked it out for sitting with me through respiratory therapy quiz nonsense. Fuck, dude. I fucking appreciate you guys like nobody's business. That shit is so boring, so dry, so monotone. It truly does help a little bit just to get to hang out with you guys, even if I'm just explaining terms that I'm not explaining or educating, or you guys have questions about medicine and stuff like that. I truly, truly, truly appreciate you hanging out with me while I do that. I'll probably be doing more during movie night. It's a nightmare. It's constant. Well, not during movie night because I can't listen to it. I don't know. I have to do more nights somehow. It's going to be great. It's going to be awesome. Come to movie night. In the meantime, I'm going to raid my girl Vissy because she's playing games. She's playing Cozy Grove, which is one of the cutest games I've ever seen personally. Please go be kind to her and hang out with her. Take your joy. Tomorrow's Fated Friday, which means all day we listen to awesome music, we get kind of high, and we chill. Bring your awesome music. Bring your funnies. Bring your lols. Good feels only. We don't do icky vibes on Fridays. So bring some good shit. You know what I'm saying? I love you guys. Take care of yourselves. Drink water. Stay classy. And thank you from the bottom of my dark pit for hanging out with me today.